Everything has an end, but the sausage has two, or in other words, this is the last video of the sweater series. Thank you for watching all of the episodes. I really hope you have learned something new from each one of them. Now it's time to make up the sweater. At first, I will make the shoulder seams. To make them, I will fold the waist yarn on the front piece as shown in the video, and I will align both pieces. The waist yarn of each piece must be folded towards the back of the sweater. Start from the end and sew towards the neckline. Both pieces should be sewn invisibly using the Kitchener seam. I have a video about it which you may check out. In that video, I am sewing the pieces using a contrasting color yarn to make it easy to understand. After you make both seams, you have to weave the yarn tails and cut them short. Now it should look like this. Don't remove the waist yarn yet. We will remove it at the end of the video. If you haven't done this already, at this point you have to weave in the yarn tails from the neckline. After this is done, sew both sides of the ribbing together. I don't know how to perform the mattress stitch, so as an alternative I will use the latch hook to make the seam. I haven't seen anyone making a seam like this one, but this is the only way for me to sew it nicely. I will be happy to see a photo of your sweater if you are following this pattern. Don't forget to share your success with me. All of the needed links will be in the description of the video. Check out how the seam will look on the right side. It's completely invisible. And from the wrong side it looks pretty good as well. I don't have a linker, but the seam I'm making should be similar to what the linker will make. After you sew both sides of the ribbing, you have to weave in the yarn tails and cut them short. This is what the ribbing looks like. Tell me, can you spot where the seam is? Now you can see the bottom of the sweater. Now let's move on. Both sides of the ribbing are sewn, and the next thing we have to do is to attach the sleeves. Unfold the sleeve and find the side with the increases. If you remember, I put a stitch marker on the fold, so now I have to align it with the other stitch marker on the sweater. First open both stitch markers. Hold the sleeve steady, then remove the stitch marker, put it on the table and carefully take the same stitch on the sleeve with the stitch marker that is on the sweater. Now both stitches are secured. Next we have to align the bottom part. I didn't put a stitch marker there, but I will show you how to figure out how to attach it the right way. I haven't washed the sleeve, so there should be a marked line on the fold of the sleeve and the sweater that you have to be able to notice. Use the stitch marker that we removed from the sleeve and put both stitches on it as shown in the video. I guess 2 stitch markers will be enough so we can sew the sleeve accurately. If you need, you may use clips to secure the sleeve in several places. I will fold the sleeve over the sweater and I will use the latch hook to sew it the same way as I sewed the ribbing. The first stitches I will take with the latch hook are the ones that we put on the top stitch marker. The first few stitches are a bit tricky to take, but then you can put the sweater in your lap and sew it while watching TV or listen to music. As you can see, I sewed almost around the whole sleeve. When the hole becomes small, it will get hard to continue sewing. So you can pull the loop and attach a stitch marker to keep the seam secure. Then you have to turn the sweater inside out. Use your hand to pull the spool to the other side. Make sure there is nothing tangled and continue sewing the sleeve from the inside. Remove the stitch marker and take the yarn loop with the latch hook again. Don't forget that all stitches on the sleeves are live stitches. You have to watch carefully to take all of them, otherwise they will start to unravel after you remove the waste yarn. When you finish the seam, weave in the yarn tail and cut it short. After you sew both sleeves, use the latch hook to sew the cuff of the sleeves the same way as I sewed the ribbing on the bottom of the sweater. Now the sweater should look like this. It took me 2 days to sew both sleeves, so tell me, do you think this is too slow or is it normal? Now after everything is done, we have to knit and attach the neckband. Without further delay, let's get to the machine. First, make sure the racking handle is in its highest position. Raise 164 needles on the front bed, 82 to the left and 82 to the right side of the center. This is the same amount we used for the ribbing of the sweater. Place the edge springs on the last working needles. Now raise the opposite 164 needles. Make sure the needles are opposite to each other. Place the edge springs on the last working needles. Use the orange ruler and arrange the needles on both beds in a 1-to-1 division. Then move the edge springs to the last working ones. It should look like this. Set both locks to N and the stitch size to 3. Insert the orange strippers and take an eyelet with contrasting color waste yarn. Now knit 1 row. Set both locks to CX and increase the stitch size to 4. Now knit 2 rows. Set both locks to N and increase the stitch size to 5. Knit 1 row to finish the cast on. Now knit 10 rows without changing the settings on the locks. Clear the row counter and set both locks to CX. Move the lock to the color changer and take an eyelet with another color waste yarn or a ravel cord. Now knit 2 rows. Clear the row counter, set both locks to N and the stitch size to 3. Move the lock to the color changer and take the main yarn. Now knit 1 row. Set both locks to CX and increase the stitch size to 4. Now knit 2 rows. Set both locks to N and increase the stitch size to 5. Knit 1 row to finish the cast on. Clear the row counter, then set the stitch size to 3.5 on both sides of the lock. Now knit 13 rows to make the rip. The lock should be on the left side of the machine. On the front lock, increase the stitch size to 5, then set the back lock to GX. Remove the orange strippers and insert the black ones. Move the edge springs and use the double eye bodkin tool to transfer all stitches to the opposite needles on the front bed. Rotate the racking handle to its lowest position, then put all needles on the back bed out of work. Now knit 1 row. Clear the row counter, then move the lock to the color changer and take an eyelet with waste yarn. Cut the yarn tail and retread the machine. Now knit 20 rows with the waste yarn without changing the settings on the lock. Clear the row counter, then cut all yarn tails and retread the machine. Knit 2 rows without yarn to drop the knitted neckband. It should look like this. We will sew it to the neckline from the side with the live stitches, then we will remove the waste yarn. First fold the sweater in half and put a stitch marker on the center stitch at the back. I will align the seam of the neckband with the center stitch on the back. Lay the sweater on the table and take the neckband. First, I will sew both ends of the neckband to the stitches on the back piece using the Kitchener stitch to make the seam invisible. After sewing both ends of the neckband, the sweater will look like this. And now we have to sew the rest. I will do that by using the latch hook. First, fold the neckband as shown in the video and find the center of the neckline. Put one clip in the center, then stretch the neckline again and put another clip in the center of the right half. I will remove these clips while sewing the neckband. The last clip should be in the center of the left half. And here comes the sewing part. It's exactly the same as for the sleeves and the ribbing. I like to use this method because even if you're not 100% accurate, it would be hard to notice that on the final result. At this point, we have to sew both ends of the neckband together. I will use the latch hook to make the seam. Now everything is sewn and we only have to remove the waste yarn. This is the scariest part. To make this part less scary, you may pull the waste yarn and inspect all of the seams. If you can see a hole somewhere along the seam, you have probably missed taking one of the live stitches. When you double check all of the seams, you can start unraveling the waste yarn. This is both super satisfying and a bit scary. So far so good. The ribbing looks perfect. Now let's remove the waste yarn from the sleeves. This part is even scarier. I'm inspecting the seam and it looks pretty good. And who knows, you may see me wearing this sweater in some of the videos. Remove the waste yarn from the second sleeve the same way. Then inspect the seam for any dropped stitches. Now let's unravel the waste yarn from the back. It's starting to look like a real sweater. After we sewed the shoulders, there was some waste yarn left on the inside. So turn the sweater inside out and unravel the waste yarn from both shoulders. Don't forget to support me by liking the video and leaving me a comment below. I'm very proud of my Kitchener seams. They all look very nice. Last but not least, remove the waste yarn around the neckline. If there are no dropped stitches at this step, nothing more can go wrong. Now let's remove the waste yarn from the cast-on. Cut the contrasting color yarn or the ravel cord and pull it out. Then simply remove the waste yarn. If it is attached to any of the stitches, you can simply cut it. It looks promising. Now remove the waste yarn from the cuffs the same way. If you are curious about why there is a waste yarn on the cuffs, you may want to check out my video about the flat cast-on by clicking on the info card in the upper right corner. Finally, remove the waste yarn from both sides of the ribbing on the bottom of the sweater. And the sweater is ready. Can you imagine that we made it? I still can't believe that. Thank you very much for watching all of the episodes. That's all for today. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.